All right. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is keeping safe and healthy. I am your host for today. I'm Eric Bilardo. I'm the Sales Engineering Leader for Asia South Emerging Region. So basically, our topic for today is Recovery Vault. So with today's growing variety of workloads and rapidly increasing amount of data, organization needs a flexible, scalable, and definitely most effective solution that helps protect the data from definitely number one, ransomware, user error, and definitely other cyber threats. So NetBackup Recovery Vault is a cloud-based data retention service for organizations that needs to manage their data growth with an integrated storage option that provides number one, simplicity, security, and definitely predictable costs. Yep. So together with me, our main presenter, Stephen Callis, is our solution engineer based out in Melbourne, Australia. And helping him answering questions with us is Chang. He is our technical authority based out in Singapore. And we have also Chi Chong Lee, also our technical authority based out in Malaysia. So I encourage and urge everyone, if you happen to have any questions, so please post your question in our Q&A box. And also, we will be selecting the best question for today. And as part of the giveaway, we are giving away an Amazon digital gift cards. Yep. And we also ask your participation in, polling question that will be flashing out during the presentation. And as such, so let's make this interactive session as possible. So let me hand it over to Stephen. Yeah, Stephen, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. So today we'll be discussing a new service from Veritas and from NetBackup called NetBackup Recovery Vault, and sort of what benefits you could find in your NetBackup deployment. Now, this is sort of pitched to existing customers that have NetBackup, as it's a seamless integration with what you already have today. But equally, if you're a Veritas customer utilizing other solutions, please don't hesitate to reach out to your account team and talk about Recovery Vault, and see if that's the deciding factor to set up a NetBackup environment. So before I start talking about Recovery Vault, I'm going to talk about the latest release of NetBackup 10, which came out earlier this year. And really, this is probably one of the biggest and most significant releases for NetBackup in its history, probably since it came out with dedupe, which these days dedupe is just seen as a utility that all backup vendors and storage providers provide. But with NetBackup 10, Veritas has done a lot of work in NetBackup. In fact, we're probably redeveloping NetBackup from the ground up, and we're breaking it into various components, modularizing it. We're utilizing Docker containers to allow us to instantiate and spin up individual services when and where they're needed, so that NetBackup as a whole is a more flexible, adaptable platform to run both on-prem, but more importantly, in the cloud. And it's sort of this separation of different bits and pieces inside NetBackup. We were looking at, how can we help with long-term retention and better utilizing the cloud. And that's where we decided to develop and release Recovery Vault. And as part of that development, the team at Veritas sort of looked at what are all the challenges around data protection, what are the challenges around storing data for the long term, but more importantly, storing that data in the cloud. And look, as a universal challenge for all of us these days, it's ransomware or cyber resilience. It's the ability to be able to have your platform set up correctly. So in that unfortunate event where you fall prey to a ransomware attack, that you're able to detect what's going on and recover. So you'll find not only here in Recovery Vault, but throughout NetBackup, that we have a really robust and strong response to that. And with each release of NetBackup, there's just more and more features being developed to help customers answer that threat. One of them being NetBackup Recovery Vault. When we also looked at long-term retention and storing that data in the cloud, you know, it's easy today. We could just spin up a storage bucket in either AWS or Azure, and we can replicate and put our data today there. Today, a lot of customers are doing that with NetBackup. A few years ago, we had our NetBackup gateway called Cloud Catalyst to allow customers to do that. Last year, we released MSDPC, effectively re-engineering that approach and allowing our customers' dedupe data on-prem to be linked into a cloud bucket and replicated across seamlessly. One of the challenges there, though, is at the end of the day, the only reason that we back up is to have the ability to recover data. And so there are a lot of storage options available to customers in the cloud, but they're not specifically designed for backup. And probably what this slide should say more importantly is backup and restore. And that's the trick. We need if we're going to put data into the cloud with the intention of recovering it, we need it to be available when required, pretty much instantly, and also be on a storage platform that's going to give us the right throughput to recover. And we want to be able to recover it wherever it needs to be, say back on-prem, where the backup was originally done, to an alternate data center, or to an instance in the cloud. So that's a specific challenge that we wanted to address when looking at Recovery Vault. We also know that though cloud is seen to be easy, especially for customers who have a hybrid cloud strategy, the way that you go provisioning your storage buckets is different with each cloud provider, and also different with each app that's going to utilize that storage. So we wanted to simplify that and make it easy. And we really knew that to provide a service that's valuable to the customers, we would have to address that. And lastly, storage costs. So again, people say cloud is easy, cloud is cheap, but we all know that the one area of cloud that's not cheap is storage. All the cloud providers will graciously accept all our data as we move it into the cloud. But as soon as we want to pull that data back, that's where unknown charges can suddenly pop up. And suddenly the great idea that we have about storing all our data in the cloud rather than tape becomes a bit of a challenge. So again, that's something that we knew to release this service we would have to look into. Now, I might pause. As Eric mentioned earlier, we have a poll. And Eric and Trudy, if you could bring that poll up, please. So hopefully that's come up in Zoom for you. It'd be great if you could answer that poll, and I'll give it another few minutes so we can start getting some responses. And then we can have a quick chat about the responses and see what everyone is doing. So I think that's enough. Trudy, if you wouldn't mind. Right, okay, so hopefully that's showing up on the screen. So yeah, look, 61% of people are still utilizing tape. 22% are leveraging a object storage or another device that has dedupe. Now I suspect that's going to be on-prem. A small amount are just backing up the basic disks and retaining it there for the short and the long term. 32% do use cloud. So that's always good to see. We've run a few sessions like this in the past where nobody's been using cloud. And in a few cases, yeah, we're not retaining long-term data. Yeah, look, I've come across a few customers who have specifically large databases and they never delete anything for the database, so they don't really keep long-term data. But look, it's good to see there's 60% everyone who's on the call today utilizing tape, and then roughly 32% using cloud. So look, good. I really hope that what we're about to go into about Recovery Vault is going to be a benefit to both customers. If you've already made that move into cloud, this is a new service that you might want to look to leverage. And for those 61% of the customers who are using tapes today, it can also be it can be hard replacing tape and moving to cloud, and there's plus and minuses for both sides. But after spending nearly 20 years with NetBackup, I think this would be, and with Recovery Vault, this is the easiest time there has ever been to make that first initial step and to look at cloud as a long-term retention approach with Recovery Vault. So hopefully the rest of the presentation will be a benefit to you all. Sorry, just a challenge moving the slides. Okay, so why NetBackup Recovery Vault? So if we remember those 4 areas that Veritas really looked at around the challenges of storing data in the cloud, this is why we think Recovery Vault's going to be a really good fit for that. So ransomware protection. So how we address that is we are offering Recovery Vault. We're going to run that in a Veritas SaaS tenancy. So that offers a level of logical air gap from your current environment, where if your on-prem environment is compromised, your data is safe being controlled in a Veritas run tenancy. In addition to that, just like we now do on-prem with either our own hardware or our partners' hardware, we offer immutable storage. So again, a way to lock down that data and make sure that when it needs to be recovered, it's there and ready and waiting for you. As I was mentioning before, we've built Recovery Vault in mind for a data protection application. So, we're not in the AWS world leveraging Deep Glacier to store your data inside Recovery Vault, because we know with that, there's going to be a massive lag for when it's time to bring back data. Yes, it's cheap, but in a ransomware attack or even in a planned migration, you're going to need your data back in a sensible amount of time. And so that's what we've decided to do with Recovery Vault. So it's not on the fastest disk, it's not on the cheapest disk. It's a nice medium point that we believe meets the standard SLAs that we want for a backup and recovery application. Simplified support experience. And by that, what we've done is we've used the technology we developed last year with MSDPC or MSDP for cloud. And so really, if you're already a NetBackup customer using SLPs, and you'll send your first copy of your data to some faster disk on-prem and then your second copy to tape or to cloud today, that's the amount of knowledge you need really as a NetBackup customer to implement Recovery Vault. So Recovery Vault will just appear inside the NetBackup web UI as another storage target, and you simply introduce that into your existing policies or SLPs. Just like with any other storage unit, you'll define the retention. Sorry, the retention is defined when you take the backup at the time. So really implementing Recovery Vault is just as easy as introducing a new storage unit you have today. The support experience, as I said, this is going to be a SaaS service, and by that, the management of all the infrastructure, the storage, is all taken care of for Veritas. This will be set up in a Veritas tenancy, and we will manage it for you. From an onboarding process, I've got some slides on that later, but it's a fairly straightforward onboarding process. You decide how much storage you want, where you want it hosted, in what region, and then Veritas will then send you through the certificates and the links to add that to your NetBackup environment. Predictable costs. So this is what I was talking about before as one of the challenges with storing data in the cloud, and that's the egress of the data when you want to pull it back out. What we've attempted to do in Recovery Vault, knowing that the whole intention for sending data into Recovery Vault is to have the ability to recover it later, what we've been able to do is work with our cloud partners to flatten that cost. So there's no egress charges for pulling data back out of NetBackup Recovery Vault. That is part of the service. And I think really that is a game changer. So Veritas, we're taking the hit on that. Yeah, I think that will really knock down some of the barriers that maybe customers have in the past about leveraging cloud. And lastly, a move from CapEx to OpEx. And by this, I mean normally that we're investing in tape or tape libraries on-prem or large S3 devices on-prem to store our long-term data. With NetBackup Recovery Vault being a SaaS subscription offering, that can move the cost at your organization from a CapEx to an OpEx model. You can also then start to look at correctly tiering your data that you retain to be on the best storage platform that's optimal from a cost point of view. Now, a little bit more details about Recovery Vault. So Recovery Vault, because fundamentally it uses our MSDPC technology, can be used by a customer who has an on-prem NetBackup environment, a NetBackup environment running in the cloud, or a hybrid combination of both. The only real prerequisite here is that you're running NetBackup 9 or above. On the NetBackup Recovery Vault, as I've talked about, it's integrated into NetBackup. It's seamless. It will appear as just another storage target, and it's been engineered specifically for LTR. Now, I talked about us sort of creating different services out of NetBackup. This is just really the first step, is like creating an MSDPC storage bucket, wrapping Veritas services around it, and offering it out. In the future, you can look to Veritas that, there will be NetBackup as a service coming at some point in time. It's inevitable. Other people have asked us about, well, you're now doing this for long-term data recovery Vault. What about just normal dedupe pools? What about some faster disk in the cloud that I just want to leverage and I don't want to manage it? So, we're looking at all these options, but Recovery Vault is the first service that we're offering. The other good thing to know about this is, though this is a brand new service, only released earlier this year, Veritas has been doing this for a long time. So what I mean by that is we've had another solution offering out there called Enterprise EV Cloud, or Enterprise Vault in the cloud. And we already run a fairly large SaaS platform for all our EV customers who are archiving all their emails and journaling all their emails. And so it's the same team at Veritas who are now going to take control of this SaaS service. So yeah, a lot of experience in managing, working with customers, responding to queries around running a SaaS service. The other advantage of Recovery Vault here is it's logically air-gapped. So no, it's not physically air-gapped in what you would be expecting if you're a tape customer and the tape is taken off-site. It's logically air-gapped because this is running in a Veritas-controlled tenancy where you, the customer, don't have access into it. And so anyone who, say, penetrates or infiltrates your environment will also not have access into it. Each tenancy that we spin up for a customer is dedicated just to them, so there's no mixing of customer data. So yeah, a very well thought out and well implemented SaaS solution. As I said before, because we're fundamentally using the building blocks of MSDPC, this means that you have the ability to recover that data anywhere that you want. So if it's a classic recovery event where you need to bring the data back on-prem, you can do that. Bear in mind, no egress charges because we've covered that for you already. If you're looking to do a migration to the cloud and you've backed up your on-prem server and now you want to simulate or practice a migration to the cloud, we can recover that data from Recovery Vault straight into your cloud instance, all under the control of NetBackup, all through one pane of glass. It's limitless scale. So as I said, we're controlling the compute and the storage that's required to run this, and it will scale up as you need it to scale up. We've already covered a little bit the predictable costs. So that's the flattening of the charge, so the no egress charges. How do we charge for that? So as a NetBackup customer, you'll all probably be aware that we charge front-end terabytes. So we look at all your applications and all your workloads out there and how much would a single full backup of all of those be. From NetBackup Recovery Vault as a storage, what we've decided to do is we're going to charge on back-end terabyte, but that's back-end terabyte after dedupe and compression has taken effect. So for anyone out there who uses MSDP on-prem or our appliances and you have your dedupe pool, you'll know that your dedupe pool is a lot smaller than the actual front-end terabyte equivalent, even if you're storing that data for multiple months or multiple years. And that's going to be the charging mechanism for Recovery Vault. So it's a 1, 2, or 3 year subscription based upon back-end terabytes. Today, or as of release, this is available in Azure. It's also available in Semantic Cloud. And later this year, we'll be bringing this solution to more cloud providers. The endeavor there also is, and this is a compelling reason that I haven't really thought about it. If you're already locked into a certain cloud vendor and you don't want all your eggs in one basket, Recovery Vault gives you that opportunity to send a copy of your data for your long-term retention to another cloud vendor. And you don't have to go through the process of negotiating with that separate cloud vendor. So if you are already a big AWS customer, but you want your data somewhere else, say in Azure, you don't have to negotiate with Microsoft or any other cloud vendor. You just come to Veritas, you say, I need 100 terabytes. I want to host it in one of the AWS Sydney regions. Currently I'm running my services in Azure in Melbourne, and we'll make that possible. And the charge doesn't change. So I think that's another really good benefit for customers who want to sort of adapt a more hybrid cloud approach to their cloud journey. I think I'll pause now so Eric and Trudy can run our second poll, and that should be up on the screen now. So I'll just give everyone a few more minutes to look at that. Yeah, and if we could close the poll, team, that'd be great. Okay, so the results are coming in, 42% on Azure, a slightly surprising 11% on AWS, Google at 8%. Multi-cloud vendor, so that's exactly what I was just talking about, 21%. Though, with Veritas technologies, be it NetBackup with our replication or InfoScale with our workload clustering, we make it really easy to adapt a multi-cloud setup. I think with Recovery Vault, it just really simplifies it specifically for backup and long-term retention. And then, 4% using another cloud vendor and 15% using none. I suppose that 15% using none is a different result to what we got before, where we had, 50, 60% using tape. So that's quite interesting. So today, for those 42% using Azure, this Recovery Vault is available today on Azure. So if you like Microsoft, that's great. But later this year, we will be bringing out AWS, and there will be more cloud partners coming soon. So look, I might have mentioned this in passing over the last few slides, but some really key use cases. We've talked already at length about ransomware protection and the ability to have an air-gapped solution, but also a mutable copy of your data. Recoverability, again, we've talked about that, about the ability with this single storage target, be it in Recovery Vault, the ability to recover your data where it's needed and when it's needed. Cloud tiering, this is around, cloud can be very expensive from a storage point of view. And a lot of time, customers will have their traditional approach of storing data on-prem for 1 month and then keeping monthlies maybe for 1 month or 3 months. But when they get to cloud, they look to implement the same type of retention technology, retention policy, and then start really seeing the bills going up quite a lot. So one of the nice advantages here is this is a really easy approach to set up a tiered approach in the cloud. So for example, maybe rather than going the traditional route of keeping 1 month of backups in the cloud, maybe what we want to do is we want NetBackup to implement with AWS, or it's all snapshots and we're keeping 1 or 2 snapshots. NetBackup is synchronizing or controlling that. Then we back up those snapshots, and then rather than keeping them in MSDP for quick recovery for a month, maybe we keep it for 2 weeks. And then we leverage an LTR solution, Recovery Vault, to keep the data for anything longer than 2 weeks. So this is, with Recovery Vault, it's just another tool to utilize there to get the best sort of tiering of storage and the right price point to allow you to respond to your recovery time, recovery point objectives. Backup of cloud instances, sort of like what I mentioned before, I still recommend, say, doing a snap and then back up the snap and then keeping that backup for 1 or 2 weeks ready to restore. But look, equally with Recovery Vault, if you wanted to just back up that snap or back up those files on a cloud instance and send them straight into Recovery Vault, that's doable also. So, again, just flexibility and options with NetBackup as a platform there. And lastly, one of the use cases, and it links back to ransomware and having a big ransomware event, but disaster recovery. So the ability to restore large amounts of files as well as small files. There's no compromise here with Recovery Vault. Look, touching upon this slightly, the total cost of ownership of going down Recovery Vault against tape, or in this instance here, against implementing your own cloud solution. So over here on the left, the DIY cloud solution. Now, my assumption here is this is what customers have been doing over the last few years with NetBackup, either via Cloud Catalyst or MSDPC, where we're setting up a cloud bucket, either that S3, maybe we're using Glacier with AWS. It's more than just the cost of the storage. So we've talked briefly about it before. There's the egress charges, especially when you're pulling that data out of your Glacier bucket back on-prem or to another cloud instance or a remote data center. They really need to be factored in from a total cost of ownership, those charges that may come across. I encourage all customers who are looking at cloud, before they even start doing that, to look at their historical amount of recovery that they do over a 1, 3, or a 6-month period on-prem, and to understand those factors so that they can really get a total cost of ownership when they're provisioning cloud storage. The other thing we have to consider when you're doing a DIY cloud storage solution is the staff and the skills. So especially for those customers who are using a hybrid cloud approach, it's going to be a different set of skills, procedures, and tools to utilize to spinning up a cloud bucket in Azure versus AWS. And so those have to be taken into account. And then, the team's job, be it the backup team or a cloud team, of doing capacity management and managing that storage volume. So with NetBackup Recovery Vault, though, the only real cost is the cost to store that dedupe and compressed backend terabyte on the Veritas NetBackup Recovery Vault. All those other things about how to provision it, our team's doing it, the egress charges, that's taken care of. So in addition to all the other benefits that we've talked about, we see a really great TCO story here for Recovery Vault. If any of you have worked with your relevant account teams in the past and you've seen some quotes for Recovery Vault, it will appear on the surface that per terabyte charge is going to be a little bit more expensive than, say, you could go to Glacier with at AWS. But that's the thing, it's all those other factors that haven't been baked into that price from a TCO perspective. So something to bear in mind is you progress and you work with your Veritas account team on getting quotes. This is sort of where I was alluding to before. If you're setting up a DIY cloud solution, some of our team have done some investigation and said in certain circumstances, it's almost a 13-step process to provision the cloud storage and then link it back into NetBackup. As I said, there's going to be a different procedure and set of skills that the team who are going to do that needs to know. And it could also be a different team. So it could be, rather than NetBackup team taking total responsibility, provisioning their storage for LTR solutions, they might have to reach out to a separate cloud team. And, if you're a hybrid cloud customer, maybe you've got a cloud team that's dedicated to Azure and AWS. So it's just time and effort built in. And during that provisioning, simple human errors can be made. Network errors, maybe, the data that you're sending up to this storage bucket is highly sensitive, needs to be secured on immutable storage. Maybe that tick box on Azure or AWS is missed. And and maybe also you haven't factored in those recovery points. As how often do I, as an organization, recover my data? Is it twice a year? And then you set up your cloud storage only to find out, no, it's 6 times a year. And I've selected the wrong tier of storage and costs have ballooned out. So they're all the factors that you have to consider when you're setting up the cloud storage yourself. With Recovery Vault, it's a 3-step process. So you'll get this form that's on the right that you fill out. Some of the key questions is, how much storage do you want? Do you want immutable storage? And then today with Azure, it's which Azure region in Australia or around the world do you want to host it in? In the future, it will be which cloud provider do you want to host it with? And then for that specific cloud vendor, what region do you want to host it in? So you fill up the form, you send it to Veritas. Veritas will validate the form, maybe come back with 1 or 2 additional questions. And then after that, an email will be sent out, which provides the certificates to get access to that bucket and the procedures that you need to follow in NetBackup to see that bucket. So yeah, all of the other stuff that we were talking about with the DIY solution, that's taken care of between step 2 and step 3 by the Veritas team. And then you as the backup team can just get on with making sure that backups are running. You don't really want to worry about it. I like to think about this as the same type of experience that Veritas implemented when they first came out with appliances on-prem. The whole thing about appliances on-prem is we will take care of the operating system, we'll take care of NetBackup, we'll take care of the compute and the storage and all that in a single appliance feature that we provide back to you. And this is what we're endeavoring to do with Recovery Vault from a storage target in the cloud. I think I'll just take a quick pause there for Eric and Trudy to run the last poll of the day. So hopefully that's come up on the screen. And I'll be really interested to see the results and base them versus the other ones. So a few more seconds. Thanks, Eric and Trudy, if we could see the results. Right, okay, so yeah, look, a good 15% of people not utilising the cloud. That actually matches up to our last poll where 15% weren't using cloud. The majority of the people say that today they're sending about 49% of their data or to the cloud, and that amount is less than 10 terabytes. And then a fair spread between customers who are using 50 terabytes, 100 terabytes, or more than 100 terabytes. So look, this is really good data to know. Again, like I said, when we come up from a licensing perspective for Recovery Vault, it's not raw storage used on the back end. It's after compression and after dedupe. Now, to finish off the presentation, and before we just get into some more general questions and just talking about our experiences with Recovery Vault and other customers. So this is what we have today. So we have Recovery Vault in Azure, offering immutable storage with dedupe and encryption. Like I said, we support all regions of Azure. So be it in Australia or around the world. In the future, the number one thing, and before the end of the year, is we'll be bringing on additional cloud storage providers to offer more choice. There's going to be a deeper level of integration into NetBackup from a reporting perspective. Already today, you can look at Recovery Vault like you would any other storage target, and look at its utilization and look at its trends. From our experience with EV Cloud and running a SaaS environment, we know that our customers want a little bit more information, so that will be coming soon. And like I spoke about earlier, this is our first NetBackup component broken away and provided out to our customers as a service. There will be there will be more. If you want to run a media server as a service, if you want dedupe as a service, even if we're looking at, do you want your reporting or your analytics as a service? So these are some other things that at Veritas we're investigating, and hopefully we've got something more to share with you in the future. From a next step perspective around Recovery Vault, look, the best thing is to reach out to your account team or your channel partner that you're dealing with and just request the Veritas team to come in and do a personal session with you similar to this one. What I do when I do that for customers is I look at the amount of data that we've got already that we're backing up, that we're deduping on-prem, and then I'm able to spin up a copy or some tables to show, based upon your retention policies, how much storage you may need, be it in a DIY solution for storing data in the cloud or with Recovery Vault. Then I can present that back to you. Look, the main prerequisite to start utilizing Recovery Vault today is to be on 9.0 or higher. With 9.0 and 9.1, there's a little update you have to apply into NetBackup to get things working. With NetBackup 10, Recovery Vault's ready to go out of the box. And like always, there's a free trial if you want. What that free trial is, it's going to be a 30-day free trial with 10 terabytes of storage available. To get access to that trial, again, just reach out to your account team, talk to your solution engineer, and they will organize you a free trial. I've already done this for a few of my customers, and they've already implemented it into some test SLPs, and they're sending the data there and they're trialing it and seeing how it works for them. And with that brings the presentation to an end. So now I'll pass over to Eric and the rest of the team, and maybe if you can call out some interesting questions that would benefit the entire audience, and we can talk about that live.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Stephen. Yeah, so basically one of the top question from the Q&A box is that how does Recovery Vault is being licensed? I think you have mentioned it earlier as well, but maybe it's worth to emphasize as well that in terms of licensing model. Yeah.
So look, I think to clear it up, this is a separate SaaS service. So it is going to be licensed separate from NetBackup. So if you have NetBackup today, you're a NetBackup capacity customer, you're backing up about 100 terabytes, you have to continue to pay the license to use NetBackup, the application, at 100 terabytes. With Recovery Vault, that's going to be licensed separate based upon the amount of data after dedupe that we put up there. So say you're backing up 100 terabytes and you've got a standard retention, which is, keep my short-term data, my dailies and my weeklies for a month, and then I'm looking to keep my monthlies for a year and then my yearlies for 5 years. I've done something for a similar customer around about the 100 terabyte mark, and, them keeping their monthlies for a year, their yearlies for 5 years, we predicted that over the course of 1 to 3 years, they're probably going to need about 180 to 250 terabytes of Recovery Vault. So what we would do is we'd look to license that. If it turns out that after the first year, you'll be utilizing about 150, we'd simply license Recovery Vault at 150 terabytes with a 1, 2, or 3 year subscription.
All right, got it, Steven. So basically, in a nutshell, how we license Recovery Vault is based on backend terabyte. It can be a form for a subscription offering, be it on a 1 or 3 years increment. Hey, thanks, Steven. So the other area that most of our audience is asking is that I believe you have mentioned it in the earlier slide. Which cloud providers will be available?
Yeah. So as of today in Australia, it's Azure and Semantic Cloud, and with that, I don't know a lot of customers using Semantic Cloud in Australia, but with Azure, you can choose to host Recovery Vault in any of the regions that Azure has in Australia. Later this year, we hope to bring this to AWS. And then after that, I would expect Google and other cloud providers will hopefully follow. But as of today, only Azure.
All right, thanks, Steven. So basically, Recovery Vault is currently available on either AWS or Microsoft Azure. And cloud storage will be available locally in all 3 regions, such as AMS, EMEA, and APJ. Yep. So, Steven, there's also one inquiry in terms of how do we normally size NetBackup if customer is planning to have a large data protection in the cloud?
Yeah. So if any customers have experienced sizing for dedupe on-prem, look, that's exactly what I would do. I would look at, say that, in that example before, 100 terabytes, it's broken down into a certain percentage of databases, a certain percentage of file systems or VMware. I would take that data, and usually the way that I collect that data is I simply ask a customer to run a NetBackup usage report, or if you're a NetBackup customer who's leveraging our NetBackup Insight portal, where your usage is automatically uploaded to NetBackup to Veritas every month, I'll take a sample of that data. I'll then talk to you about your retention policies. So how long do you want to keep your Oracle data for from a short-term and a long-term perspective? Same with VMware. And then I run that through our dedupe calculator, because as I've mentioned a few times, Recovery Vault is going to leverage our MSDPC technology. And so it's our same dedupe engine that you're used to or we've been using for NetBackup for years. And then out of that, I'll come with a figure of based upon your retention policy, based upon your estimated growth, what amount of data will be required from a 1 to 3 year perspective. I can do that as a whole. I can break it down into workloads, very easy and flexible. And yeah, look, once I get access to your usage data and by that, the type of applications and workloads that we're protecting, can have an estimate back with you within 24 hours.
Right, Steven. So yeah, so again, in a nutshell, so it really depends on the data or workloads that we need to make sense with in terms of moving it into cloud. But as Steven mentioned, so definitely we have a calculator that will be able to help us to size accordingly from end to end. And I think what is important is do contact your respective account rep and your SEs to be able to help you guide thoroughly on the sizing requirement. Yep. All right, Steven, another question is that does NetBackup perform a file integrity to determine if the file is being backed up is affected with malware?
Yeah, so in regards to that type of functionality, that's not specifically a Recovery Vault functionality. That's something that's inherent into NetBackup, the application. So that goes back to one of my earlier points about Veritas's approach to tackling ransomware. We see it as a 3-step process. It's all about protect, detect, and recover. So the ability to back up your data quickly and for all type of workloads, no matter what. the ability to recover that data, of which Recovery Vault is an important point. And in the middle, and one of the newest areas is detect. And so as of NetBackup 9.1, and even more so with NetBackup 10, we've brought in this thing called anomaly detection and malware scanning. And so what that does is this doesn't really matter if you're using on-prem storage yourself, on-prem appliances, or Recovery Vault, because this is a NetBackup function that all our NetBackup capacity-based customers get for free. It's just part of the service. And what this is as the data streams are coming into the media server, as they're getting stored on the storage medium, we're looking at that data set, comparing it to past information that we have about that data set in our catalog. We're looking for anomalies. We're looking at a large amount of files being deleted. Has the file extension been changed across a large subset? Is the dedupe going through the floor because someone has encrypted all that data and tried to lock it away from you? So what we do there is we're doing that in effectively real time. Like we're doing it all in-house inside NetBackup. There is no requirement for NetBackup to go talk to a SaaS service in the cloud and send your metadata anywhere else than keep it in your NetBackup environment. And what we'll do then is we'll flag if we think or we've detected something that might be wrong with that backup set. What we also do, in addition, is we plug in with various mail scanning software, be that Semantic. Of course, we would plug into Semantic, but also Windows Defender. As a NetBackup subscription customer, we've OEM'd our own malware into the backend. And what that will do is if any of those backup sets are deemed to be slightly suspicious, you can automatically run a malware scan on the backup image when it's sitting on the media servers to see if there is any issues going on there. A really nice feature as well is this then appears in the restore GUI as a new column, a new tick or cross. And if you see a cross, it means that either you haven't implemented the malware scanning, but NetBackup hasn't been able to determine if this backup set is fit for purpose. And what you can do is you can do a just-in-time malware scan across that backup set before you recover. Now, all those features, like I said, are inherent in NetBackup. And so they'll work just the same as if we're storing the data on-prem as if we're storing the data in Recovery Vault.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Steven. I think what is important is we can definitely integrate with the third-party endpoint solution, the likes of Symantec and even Microsoft. And Steven, if I may ask, there's also a follow-up question that, is there a roadmap for Veritas to perform a pre-scanning? Before now we can do is post-scanning, but is there a roadmap that we can perform a pre-scanning first rather than post-scanning? So I think if I may answer that question, Steven, if you will. Actually, in the next release, we are going to provide that functionality. So at least you have an end-to-end approach when it comes to malware scanning. So I think from a Veritas perspective, we are a custodian of data. We are making sure that your data is recoverable at any stage. Yep.
Yeah, I think the topic about pre and post scanning, if we think about it, if you've got Symantec or Windows Defender in your environment, we're talking about pre-scanning. That's something that's probably going to be happening anyway on the production data. What we're doing is within about 5 minutes of the data arriving on the backup medium, we're going to do the scan on the backup medium. That's going to take any type of load off your front-end production network and your front-end production workloads. It's going to happen on the back end. I think if you want to do pre-scanning and you're already using Symantec or Windows Defender, then that's something you can already do today. I suppose maybe where you're going with that question is, effectively implementing it as, automating a scan before the backup takes place. So
correct.
No, not today, but it's within 5 minutes of the backup happening.
Yeah, and what is important, Steven, if I may add, is that we have to make sure that to be more stringent with the cyber threats and ransomware, we also need to make sure that the endpoint solution is up to date in terms of the latest patches and releases. All right, Steven, I think there's one more question. What is the encryption used for Recovery Vault, and how is it being, how the key is being managed?
Yeah, I don't have the answer on me at the moment, but as in we're using NetBackup, MSDP and replication, it would be the same type of encryption technology as we do today when we're, say, replicating from on-prem to on-prem or on-prem to the cloud.
All right.
But if there's more detail about that, Eric, if you could note down that question, and I'll do the due diligence and look at the tech details and come back to you in more detail.
Sure. And then, Stephen, if I may share, I mean, in terms of encryption, actually, you're right. We're using the NetBackup technology. So encryption is basically based on the AES techniques if required as per NetBackup approach. So now on the question on how we are managing the keys are being managed by KMS from a NetBackup or from any external entities. Yep, just to share.
And look, Eric, look, we've got probably 5 or 10 minutes left.
Yep.
What I'll probably do now is close out.
Yep.
We had a large customer recently that we were talking about, and we were just sort of stepping through the procedures. And this is really related to like an existing tape customer. Like I said before, I think Recovery Vault works really well for anyone who's using cloud today, as this is just another mechanism that they can look at, and they can hold Recovery Vault up versus what they do today and see which is the best fit solution. But equally, it makes it really, really easy for any customer who's not leveraging cloud today to take the first step into it. And like we were speaking to one of these customers specifically, and they came back to us and started talking about, well, how faster is it going to be to recover from Recovery Vault versus tape? And it's a really hard question to answer. The first thing is, well, where are you recovering to? Like I said, with Recovery Vault, you can go back to multiple targets. If you're going to be pulling the data from Recovery Vault back on-prem, how fast it's going to be, well, that really depends on your link to the cloud provider. If you're an Azure, if you're going to recover that data back to an instance in Azure, so of course you're going to have it a lot quicker. But some of the real time savings is, in both instances, recovering from tape or recovering from Recovery Vault, you're in your NetBackup web UI, you're in your restore console, and you're searching for the set of data that you want to recover. So the time's sort of the same. Where it really differs is from that point onwards with Recovery Vault, you can then initiate the restore and it starts taking place. The issue with tape is you then need to, via the recovery console, identify how many tapes do you need? Do you need 1 or do you need 50? You then need to place the order to recover them. Now, you might be using someone like Iron Mountain, so you need to send that request in and they need to get delivered back on site. Or you might actually just be having a separate room in your data center where you unload your tapes and you store them. But to the same end, you need to put in a call to the people, the hands and feet on site, to go get those tapes and load them back into the tape library. Depending on how big your tape library is, you then might have to manage how many tapes can I load up in an instance. If you need to recover from 10 tapes, but you only have a 5-slot tape library, then there's going to be sort of more manual intervention. And it's once you get to that point that with the tape solution, you start recovering the data. So I think just equally when we talked about the TCO model and all the factors to consider about using Recovery Vault or doing it yourself, when we talk about the question about how fast can we recover, we need to factor in those physical and those manual elements that as a tape customer you have today when it comes to recover. Not to mention the cost options of obviously maintaining a tape library and maintaining a tape. And also, what do you do in a recovery event if one of those tapes goes bad because they're a physical medium? Like, what if they go bad and then I have to say, all right, well, I can't recover all my data from 2 weeks ago, but now I'm going to have to go and recover all my data from 3 weeks ago. But I've already put in the order to Iron Mountain to recover that subset of tapes, and now I need to get a new subset of tapes back and try again because one of the tapes were bad and my data couldn't be recovered. So, these are some really important questions when you're considering is this the right time to move from tape to Recovery Vault or to another disk-based long-term retention storage option. So yeah, sorry, I thought I'd share that because that was just a conversation I had in the last week.
And thanks, Steven, for sharing that information. At least it's the real life scenario that we are actually facing in the field. But as a parting words, aside from TCO, Veritas Recovery Vault not just only simplifies the process of provisioning for new storage, one, Then number two, we definitely help to reduce the risk and allowing for limitless scalability. And the good thing with that is we can also automate the resiliency, and then definitely it's a seamless integration with NetBackup. All right, so yep, Stephen, I think we don't have a Q&A. So let's close it off and hope to see everyone in our next webinar session.
Yeah,
thank
and
you,
Eric,
everyone.
I think you were mentioning before, you know, we're going to go through the whole host of questions. I think this is the most important thing.
Right.
And we'll find out who had the trickiest question.
Right.
And then that person will come back to you with that Amazon voucher.
Correct, the Amazon voucher. Right. Thanks for the reminder, Stephen. Yep, great.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. And again, call your account team and let's set up a conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.